Well, welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. Jon Scheve as well as Dan Basse joining us this weekend for our marketing roundtables. Okay, I know we're a week out of Pro Farmer Crop Tour, but those final numbers that came in from Pro Farmer specifically, their estimates, which are their own estimates, but based on what they saw on Crop Tour. Corn yield of 181 bushels per acre, production pegged at 14.98 billion bushels. Soybean yield a whopping 54.9 bushels per acre, production at 4.74 billion bushels. So you get those initial estimates out of Pro Farmer. Jon, do you think they're pretty spot on with those?
I have trouble with how the beans were so high and the corn was so low. I think that the weather here would have been more favorable for the corn. Probably if the beans are that high, I think that the corn's going to come in substantially better than. If the corn number's right, I think the bean value's overvalued.
Dan, I know you've been on your own. AgResources had a crop tour. I know you have your personal estimates as well. We are starting to see some of this crop dry down really quickly. So harvest is approaching quickly here in the Midwest. But when you look at that 181.1 for corn, 54.9 bushels per acre for soybeans, does that align with AgResource?
Yeah, we're a couple bushels or 1 to 2 bushels lower on corn tine. We're concerned about the foliar diseases. We're concerned about the push of Mother Nature to get us to black layer. We think that starch accumulation is not as much as it should be. So we're down a couple of bushels. And then we look at beans, we're maybe a bushel lower. So it's a big bean. They're still big crops, don't get me wrong, but maybe they're not as big as we thought during the early part of August or middle of August going forward. But we'll see how Mother Nature brings us home over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Weather's still important as we head into the middle of September.
Yeah, weather is still important. And I think this week was a reminder of that. Jon, we did see prices move positively a few days here this week. Was that really weather driven, or was there another factor that was moving prices?
I think it's certainly, you could say that beans probably showed some positive movement on the fact that it's hot and dry. And this is the time that you need it not to be hot and dry. So, but the problem is that's only going to be on the extremes of the belt. You're talking southeast Nebraska there. You're talking northwest Ohio. Those areas are some of the concern. But I think overall, I think this crop's doing pretty well. It has enough water, and humidity is good. And so if it is humid, that's helping all the things on the crop. So I think we're doing just fine there. In general, I think this crop's going to finish out okay. Maybe what we really did is, everyone wanted to talk about how, we can't hit a 181 crop. And statistically speaking, we should have easily been able to hit a 181 crop. The fact that we aren't talking about a 190 crop this year is probably more amazing, because that would have only been about a 5% increase. And we've seen those in 2014 and 2009, where we saw these really big increases in yield. So I think we should be very happy from a price standpoint that we don't have this massively huge crop out there that could potentially have been out there. That's why I still think we're definitely above 181. It's hard to peg this with this heat at the very end. I think that definitely did hurt things, but to just say that it's backing way off, I don't know. I think we're still up above 182, probably even above 183.
Well, so Jon, you think maybe we could be above 182, 183. Dan, you're thinking we're below 181. No matter what, you look at the fundamentals today, you look at the technicals today, do you think we will see this typical price pressure during the harvest season?
As you talk to farmers, the month of August was a time frame, and I always go that farmers are usually price takers. They're not price makers, but there are these time frames where farmers make prices, and one has been in the last 2 to 3 weeks where we've been sweeping bins and getting rid of old crop grain. I think that's been the pressuring factor on Chicago. As I look at the CFTC Commitment of Traders report data, my fund clients haven't been increasing or decreasing substantially. It's been, I believe, the farm movement which has taken markets down, which tells me that as I think forward, if farmers aren't big sellers during the harvest, maybe we don't get that big push to the downside. We'll see, but I'm kind of of the opinion seasonal lows are in the formation process right now, but that's our thinking at AgResource.
Jon, what about you? You think we've put the lows in this market?
If we haven't put it in, it's definitely close. Statistically speaking, over the last 30 years, August 30th to November 30th, you're going to see the low occur 50% of the time. And so we're right here at a low or very close to it. So did it happen a couple of days ago, or is it going to happen over the next 2 or 3 months? It should happen. Are we within 20, 30 cents? Probably. I think the downside is getting to becoming very limited from this standpoint. but I don't see where the upside potential is, because you have this massive carry in beans, corn, and wheat, and none of them, those carries are so big that I don't know that the crop can counter those carries. And so because of that, I think that you're looking at a certainly on corn, $4 is going to really limit that piece, because I think as the farmer sits there with a number now under, they're still sitting on a 23 crop, or at least a few bushels left. They don't have any of this 24 crop priced at all. They are going to have to drive income in by the end of the year. And so I think that's going to put pressure on it, because they didn't have a good 23 price. They're going to have to drive income to cover some of those expenses. Otherwise, they're going to be showing losses. And I don't think they want to do that on their taxes.
Well, we have seen some positive signs, some recent buys from China, but China is also sending some mixed messages. Imagine that. We'll get into that with both Dan and Jon when we come back.